Mr. Thompson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the panel for being here and lending your expertise today. Governor McDonnell, my question has to do with workforce, an area we really haven't touched on, and specific to your state, concerns offshore oil and gas development off of Virginia's coast. As I understand it, the President announced that Virginia's Leaf Sale 220 would be included in the current 2007-2012 five-year plan, and then following the Deepwater Horizon accident, the administration withdrew the sale. Did Virginia play a role in making that decision not to move forward?
We didn't. I will say, with respect to the administration, we did play a role in the initial decision that the President made in March to authorize Virginia's Lease Sale 220 to go forward. We were delighted. We thought the President made the right decision. I had a number of conversations with Secretary Salazar and meetings with him in advance, and honestly was delighted with the administration's decision to allow us to go forward as the first state on the East Coast to drill for oil and natural gas. The Secretary, though, did call me shortly before, about an hour before the President made the decision he was pulling the plug, frankly, indefinitely on offshore exploration. I told the Secretary that I appreciated the call, but it was short-sighted and reflected no confidence in the federal government to be able to properly react to this disaster in the Gulf, and no confidence in the ability of American industry to create the new technology that was necessary to react. And I didn't think we ought to give up and write off an entire industry that could create tremendous capital investment and jobs at this time in America, and that I was very disappointed.
Yeah, given that sounds like a unilateral decision on the part of the administration, have you made any estimates as to the economic impact exploration might have for the state, or frankly the potential job growth that would be associated with the industry?
Congressman Thompson, there were several estimates by various groups that have been made over the last couple of years. Some of the problems dealt with the fact that because the ban had been in place for so long, that the seismic studies were largely outdated, and so there's so much better technology to know what's out there. And I would say that a couple of the more reputable estimates indicated about 1,900 to 2,600 jobs over the next 10 years, about $10 billion in capital investment, and about $250 million in revenue sharing. Now, that would assume that Congress would allow offshore drilling off the Atlantic coast to have the same revenue sharing deal that the Gulf States coast have, which is about 37.55%. If we got something like that, sharing it with Virginia, it would be significant new revenue. In fact, I had a bill passed last session of the General Assembly approving offshore drilling and dedicating 80% of that revenue from offshore drilling to transportation infrastructure. So we were ready to go with the President's announcement. Unfortunately, now that's not the case. But what we do know is that it is an extraordinary opportunity. We, though, have great beaches, just like they do in the Gulf Coast. I don't want to drop oil on those beaches. We understand the need to be slow and prudent, but not to pull the plug indefinitely, as I understand where we are now, where Virginia really doesn't have a shot for an indefinite period of time.
You mentioned the beautiful beaches in Virginia. Do you believe that the oil and natural gas exploration in the Atlantic can coexist, not just with the beautiful beaches, but obviously the presence of the Navy in that area?
We do, and I think national security ought to take the first priority. We've got the greatest naval base in the world in Norfolk, Virginia. It's a great source of pride for us in Virginia. We've had some discussions with some of the leaders down there about their operations to discuss what areas might need to be off limits, but what areas could still be used for offshore exploration of gas, oil, or wind without affecting naval operations. We've got the same issue with Wallops Island, the spaceport off of the Atlantic, off the Virginia-Maryland coast. But I believe those industries can coexist very well with offshore energy exploration. Some areas would have to be off limits, but some can still be used, and I think that's just a matter of logistics. My concern is writing off the industry indefinitely because of clearly a disaster of significant proportions. But when you have 4,000 oil rigs that have been working reasonably well for 40 years, and then to throw in the towel in the industry, that just doesn't seem like the American way. We're better than that, and that's what I expressed to the Secretary, and I hope Congress would consider taking some action maybe to move this along a little bit quicker.
Thanks,
Thank
Governor. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The gentleman's time has expired.